Good morning, everybody. Pastor Brian here from Whitestone United Methodist Church. And I'm wearing my Love Your Neighbor mask to set a good example. One, we need to wear our mask when we're in public and around other people. Make sure you do that. It's taking care of one another. It's loving your neighbor. I'm here today to share with you my children and youth message. This comes from the gospel. It's based off the gospel lesson of Mark 13, verses 24 through 37. And I call it a moral lesson from Chicken Little. When I was just a little boy, my mother used to read me the story of Chicken Little. Or as some of you may remember it, or your parents may remember it, Henny Penny. It's about a small chicken who one fine day was walking around in the hen yard, and all of a sudden, whack! Something hit her in the head. She let out a loud squawk, looked up in the sky, and all she saw was a big old tree and an even bigger sky. She decided that the sky must be falling. And so with panic in her voice and a sense of urgency, she began to run around the yard clucking at everyone and anyone that would listen to her that the sky was falling. In fact, she was so serious about all of this that she decided that she needed to go and tell the king. As she went around, she approached many of her friends and she warned them of the impending disaster. And almost every one of them, without question, believed her and began to follow her on her journey. That is until they ran across a new animal, one they were not that familiar with. His name was Mr. Fox. Mr. Fox heard Henny Penny's story and agreed with her that the sky was falling. And he even told her and her friends he knew where to find the king. Now here's where the story has a couple of different endings. In the original story, Mr. Fox tries to trick them into going back to his den where he hopes to be able to eat them. In another version, Mr. Fox does in fact succeed in being able to eat Henny Penny and her friends. But in a much later version, one that's a little less violent, I suppose, he's able to make it, Henny Penny is able to find the king, who helps her to discover that it was in fact an acorn that hit her in the head and not that the sky was falling. The only thing that falls from the sky, he told her, was rain or snow. Now this story reminds me a little bit of the story from Mark chapter 13, verses 24 through 37, today's gospel lesson, when Jesus warns his disciples of some very troubling times that are coming. In a sense, you could say that Jesus was telling his disciples to beware that the sky was about to fall. But rather than get all worked up about it and go into a panic the way Henny Penny did, Jesus is telling his disciples to get prepared, to be prepared. Or in other words, the sky was about to go dark. Jesus tells them this: a time is coming that the world as we know it will grow dark, and the powers of heaven will be shaken. But you know, I can almost hear Jesus saying to them, fear not, because that is when you will see the Son of Man, the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords, coming in clouds with great power and glory. What Jesus is telling his disciples, and that really includes you and me, is that look at the world the way, as we look at the world the way we see it today. It may in fact be coming to an end. But don't be afraid. Just keep being my disciples. Keep loving one another. Keep forgiving one another. Keep helping one another. And sharing the story of my Father's love for you, my Father in heaven. That's what Jesus was telling them. Keep practicing what you were taught about the Christian faith. Not about worried about what day it is, but remember that God is with you. Doing this will in fact help the end of the age of darkness.